Hey everybody, and welcome back. Alright, we've got stuff to do this week, and in a minute I'll be showing you a problem, because as you've all seen over the years, I don't hide stuff. If I make a mess of stuff, you'll see it, or if things don't turn out right, I show it, because hopefully that will be helpful. As I've mentioned before, it's awful when you read instructions and it says just do this and you can't, or you just do that and it doesn't actually work. So we'll get on with that in a minute. But first of all, a little mystery. You remember I mentioned last time when I said the packages had arrived from Hitchcock's and RockShox that there was a third package and it was a bit of a mystery. Well, here it is. Now, see, parcel force, blah blah. In here, I've got a chap in Bingley sending a package to a chap in Texas, and on this side, I can imagine this was the original thing, the chap in Texas's address has been crossed out, and here's a parcel force proper thing, Mike Waller, Britannia Motorcycles, and my address. So when I open it up, it's got a watch in it, and it says here, vintage Omega, 18 carat vintage Omega automatic men's wristwatch, and it's insured, coming from the UK, I suppose, for £1,000. Actually, it doesn't make much difference at the moment, does it? Because that's about $1,000. So I thought, what the hell's going on? Has the chap in Bingley sent me a gift, which he sent to a friend in Houston to send on to me? But surely to God, nobody sent me a watch that's worth $1,000. I mean, I'd be very flattered. Actually, it would be slightly annoying because I don't wear a watch. But I thought, this is really weird. So I finally managed to contact the chap in Texas this morning, and he said, oh, me and Philip in the UK, we wondered where it had gone. He'd sent it to the UK, or the chap in the UK had got it repaired. The letter from the repairers was inside, saying what they'd done and everything. And they were trying to track the package. So what on earth, I say, it's all, you know, it's not as if somebody had handwritten any of these. You know, it's all official, including the address to me, so weird or what? So none of these people have anything to do with me, and there you go. So I've got to package that up and send it back to them. Alright, so we're going to get on and do the bottom of the engine this morning, well today. Flywheels came out fine, I'll show you them in a minute, but first of all I'm going to show you the problem and tell you how we're going to address it. So while I've been making this frame, you've seen me constantly taking measurements I've made, but all the measurements have been linear. You know, I've been measuring from here to here and there to there and here to here, and everything came out sort of within the error of using the tape measure and stuff. Nothing that I was worried about. So finally this morning when I came out, I thought, okay, I've got it up here, let's just check the wheel alignment. Now, you remember the jig we're building this in actually clamps the two wheels. So, you know, they've got to be, this could all be bent to hell, but the wheels have got to be in line because they're actually clamped together in line. You know, with allowance made for the fact that this rim is wider than this rim. You remember I had pieces put in to pack this out to keep this wheel in the centre of the two rails that were clamping it. So anyway, I put that down there. Let me show you. Right, well, I've checked this. Front and rear wheels are vertical, and across the engine plates, because they're identical size, is horizontal. So everything should be right. Front tyre is 1 inch narrower than the rear tyre. So with this piece of tube, which is straight, touching rear tyre front and back edge, there should be ½ an inch from here to this tyre, front and back, right? There's an inch there, there's an inch and a quarter there. So all I can assume, hang on, I'm going to open you up. Well, I'm not going to open you up, I'm going to open the frame up a little bit. Hang on, I'm going to move you around. Hold on. Actually, when I watch other people's videos and they move the camera around, I always think, cut that bit out. But I haven't this time. So all I can assume is that when I did like these final pieces of bronzing, that something has moved. Now, I was very careful here. I didn't just do all that and then I did the top on one side, the top on the other side, bottom on one side, bottom on the other side, and then the front. I thought I was being very careful. So, I don't know what's happening. Now, another weird thing is, and I noticed this, but I didn't understand it. Hang on, I'm trying to see if you can, I don't think you can see for that strap, can you? So we're ½ inch out, right? That should be over here ½ inch. I know I moved the engine over ¼ inch this way to give myself a bit more room for the swinging arm, but I couldn't understand where I had more sticking out here than on the other side. And in fact, I've got ½ inch more sticking out here than I have on the other side. But that I don't understand, because I tacked this in when the engine was in and the plates were all, and everything was bolted up. So I'm really confused. Now then, so what are we going to do? Well, because there's no bottom to this frame, I can move the top over. And I'm assuming that when I move it over, it'll not only move the wheel over there, my ½ inch, but also it will make it move at an angle like that, which will bring the front round. But this front end basically isn't as important as all this back end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave getting the front end sorted till I've got the engine in. Right, so what we'll do is we'll put the engine in, but we won't fasten it to the front. It gets bolted in here in a couple of different places, and we're going to see what's what, because you know I absolutely have to have the chain line right and things like that. So once this back end is exactly right, what I will try and do is some heat straightening. We'll heat this side of the frame here. I'm not sure exactly where. Maybe it should be up here near to this bronzing, and see if we can pull the front over. When I stand back and look at it, it all looks good. And as I say, both wheels are vertical, the engine's horizontal, and all the other measurements I took, hang on, I'm going to move here again. You know, I've just been checking some measurements, like from here to the front and from here to there, and as I mentioned when I put these on, they went straight on. Nothing here was twisted. If this bronzing here had caused any twisting, what it actually would have done was pull that up. And again, I didn't do lots on one side. I did a little bit, did the inside. So it's got to be the piece at the top around the headstock. It's got to be. So as I say, what we'll try and do, when we've got all this part done, got the engine in, and we know everything is right, and the chain's straight, and the chain's in line, everything like that, then we'll lift this up, we'll put the pipe, the tube there again, we'll heat this up here, get it to come over until it's right. Then of course I'm going to have to do something with this, because as that comes over, I don't really want to cut it all off, so what I might do is, when everything's right, the wheels are right, I won't have any front engine plates on, I'll put the engine plate on the other side and see how big a gap there is. And then I will cut the appropriate amount off this side and just weld it on that side, almost as a welded on spacer. So I'm not really confused, really annoyed about it. I should have known everything was going too well. So there you go. First few minutes of this week's video is a bit of a bummer. Alright, so let's go and have a look at these flywheels, and as I say, we'll deal with that much later on. Right, so here's the flywheels, and as you can see, really nicely done, nice and grey. I'll show you the insides in a minute. It's taken all the rust off. This stuff is really good. I must admit, when I first saw it advertised, I thought, oh yeah, great. Another one of these things like, you know, how to weld using a match and a coat hanger. But I bought some and I tried it, and wow, it really does work. So, because this was really nasty. Okay, now of course there's a lot of pitting, and please don't start and make lots of comments about the balance factor, because to be honest, it's all irrelevant with this engine and its eventual use. All right, so what I'm going to do now is wash this off. I'll give it a little going over with some wire wool or something. See, it's all gone. Even what looks like rust just wipes off. Very good, so let me clean this up and then we'll take it over to the cases and see about all the various bits. I'll take this piston off. We'll see about all the various bearings that the Bullet has. Just so as you know, I've been flushing through there, through the big end, and now I'm getting nice clean oil out, so that's all good. Right, so this is the drive side. Now, as I've mentioned, this bike's for me. It's not going to get, oh, I've made that wet now. It's not going to get used all that much, because I have a lot of bikes to ride, and I like riding them all. So I don't want to spend too much money on it, and these bearings are really nice. There are 2 bearings in there. In fact, look, I've just got a dirty mark on there. Hang on, let me zoom you in a little bit. Here you can see, look, bearing, circlip, bearing, and then these are all various inner and outer shims in between the 2 bearings, and then we're going to look at this one. So you're not going to see all the different shims. Hang on, I wrote a list out. I wrote a list, don't go away. Oh, there it is. For what all these are, right? So, starting over here, 5 is the main bearing. Where are we? 6 is the other main bearing. Then 7, 8. Where's 9? 9, 10, 11, 12 are spacer drive side outer, spacer drive side inner, main bearing circlip, roller bearing seal washer large, cork seal roller bearing, and then it goes down all these. So it's quite a complicated setup, and I think if you're really interested, if you go back to the other Enfield I did, I'm pretty sure that I bead blasted everything and took those bearings out and put all brand new ones in. So anyway, there's this side. Fine, as I say, really nice bearings. I'm going to give that a bit more of a wash out. So here's the timing side. So on this side we've got sort of the equivalent of a thrust washer. Then there's a roller bearing, which is actually loose rollers. In fact, one's just dropped out, in a plastic cage. Then again, there are spacing pieces and a bronze bush. So before we put all this together, what I'm going to do is heat this up and take these two out, which are for the camshafts to run on, because it so happens I have two brand spanky new ones. So let me go and heat this up and just drive them out and drive the new ones in. Right, well, I've put the new camshaft spindles in, and for those eagle-eyed of you, I'm sure you noticed that this inner spacer was loose. So while that was all nice and hot, I put a drift on, and the outer race did go in a little bit, and in fact that is now completely flush with that. Okay, so what we are going to do is put that over our little hole in the bench there. Put all the rollers in here. My hand's in the way, I know, but oh, bugger! Not only did a couple of rollers fall out, they went through the hole onto the floor. Hold on. Right, well, found all manner of things down there. Fortunately, I've also found the roller. So let's try putting it on like this. There we go. So now let's think about this timing side. Oh, look, you're letting me do it. Bugger! I didn't put... now I've dropped it on the floor. Forgot to put this in, didn't I? Hang on, let me take this apart. Well, I've come across another problem. When I put the bearing in, that roller bearing, see, this is with it in, just in the bush, and that outside thrust washer, so it's to stop it from flopping around. And oops, it's more or less fine. I mean, that's loose enough. But when I put the roller bearing in, it goes in so far, it spins, but then it just won't go in and it starts to bind. So I don't know if something's happened to the plastic of this, that it's gripping the rollers. Strangely enough, goes in easily one way. If I turn it round the other way, it doesn't really want to go in. Well, there is a slight edge there. Anyway, this is really, I've been on with this for some time. This is really taking up some time. So I don't know, let me press on. Right, well, this is considerably later. Okay, I found a little burr on the inside, like a rolled edge, that internal spacer. If I don't put the roller bearing in, put that piece in here, goes all the way in, spins. If I put it in with just the outer row of rollers in, went in, all the way in, spins. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to try this the other way around. Look, I'm going to put this on this way. If I've got enough, I don't know if I've got enough room under here. No, I haven't. Hang on. Now I've got to stand on a big piece of tube. watch. I bet I can't get it on over the rollers now. I've got a feeling a couple of the rollers have come out. Bugger! Right, well that didn't work. I got the bearing in with only the outer row of rollers. The other side here, this is all the way through. But when I put it in with both sets of rollers in, so let me go, it's nearly 5:45. This might be like a 20-minute video the way we're going, because it's Friday, it's Thursday. I can do a bit on Saturday. Alright, let me try something else. Right, well, oh pardon me, it's Saturday morning. Yesterday evening I had my little group of machinist friends, including Steam Shop, and we all looked at this, and a couple of the guys really know sort of their materials stuff. You know, they can give you the various grades of steels and alloys right off the top of the head and all this type of thing. And the general consensus was that this 60-year-old plastic cage has not only gone somewhat hard, but from the feel of the rollers in it, it's swelled up. So nothing else for it. Got to get a new cage, and I might as well get new rollers. Alright, so that's okay, because every time I order stuff from Hitchcock's, the next day I realise there's things I've forgotten, so I do have to put another order in. Probably won't be the last. So as not to lose time, what I'm going to do is bolt the cases together. Oh, by the way, I did all the studs, so they're all BSC at this end to screw in, and UNF at this end, so I just need ordinary nuts. Put this together, put the gearbox on, put the barrel and the head on with gaskets, put this in the frame, get the frame sorted, and then we'll do things like the footrests, the prop stand, the chain tensioner, and the reason I'm putting the gaskets on everything is so that we can do the exhaust as well. And then we'll just take this out and rebuild the engine complete while I'm painting the frame. So let me get all this put together and put in the frame and set up. Right, so I'm all set up now. I've got it standing on this stand. I've also got a strap on each side to hold the back end, and this is down tight. I've run a straight edge along the chain case. We're still right there. The wheel is, the centre line of the wheel is parallel with the engine, so our chain line is fine. I've checked it, we're vertical, the engine's vertical, back wheel's vertical, so basically everything is fine, you know, up to here. Now, what I did notice when I was putting the engine in and getting it right is I maybe could have used a larger diameter tube for the this main piece here. With the engine in, of course, everything is really rigid, but this bend can just flex a little bit. I had to sort of jack the engine up to get the front engine plate in. So I've got the front engine plate in. I don't have the 1/2 inch bolt in there, but that is touching there, okay? So I've got my long straight edge in, it's rested up, it's got a nice heavy weight holding it there against the back wheel. Let me show you what I've done to make it easier at the front. Right, back tyre is 4 inch, the front tyre is 3 inch, and I actually measured them, they are that. So the front wheel is 1 inch narrower than the back wheel, so that means there should be a 1/2 inch gap on each side. So rather than mess around while I'm trying to bend this with a ruler, what I've done is this tube, of course, is touching front and back of the rear tyre. This is the line we want to get to, but we want to be a 1/2 inch in from this. So what I've done is I've fastened a piece of 1/2 inch plywood on the inside of this, so when this tyre touches the plywood, I've got a 1/2 inch to the tube. So as I say, it's just easier than running around going backwards and forwards with that. Okay, so let me get the torch out and we'll see what we can do. Now I can't get you to see where I'm heating and the wheel, so what we're going to do is we're going to put that there, which hopefully is on the centre line. I'm going to let that cool off completely. So hang on, I won't make you stand around while it cools. Right, well, let me put my hand on it. It's virtually completely cooled down. Look at this. So I say, right at the back there, I'll put the bloody tape ruler down. Oh, there's a ruler. Only that's reading a quarter there, reading about a quarter there, so I'm going to put one tap. I don't know whether to be honest, for a trials bike, and knowing that probably that back rim isn't perfect, so the tyre might not be perfect, I don't want to go over. I might leave that like that. Because I think, hang on, let me stand behind you so I can look down the line of this tyre. That wheel looks straight to me. Almost touching here. I'm going to do a very slight bit more, a little bit further up the tube, because I want it to come a little bit more this way rather than the whole wheel move over. So I'll give it a little bit more. Hold your breath so I don't go too far. So it's cooled down again, and now actually with this straight I can just to say get the ruler in, so that's about 1/16 of an inch. I'm fine with that. So now I'm going to go and have a sandwich, and then I've got to prep the Enfield for tomorrow's trial, but we'll see what more we can get done this afternoon. So now I've measured this and it came out a 1/4 inch. I've made a 1/4 inch space to go in there, because it sounded when I explained this the other day as if I was going to cut this piece off and move it over there. Well, of course I can't, because when I cut to that line, the piece I cut off is going to be shorter than the thickness of the cutting disc I use. But anyway, I was expecting it to be a 1/4 inch because we wanted to move that over 1/2 inch, and I knew the engine had been moved over a 1/4 inch anyway, so that's right. So let me get a cutting disc now, very carefully cut this off and file it flat, and then we can put the other engine plate on and we can start looking at other stuff. That actually straightened up quite easily, so I'm pleased with that. Right, so there's the plates back on. As I say, we've got our 1/4 inch spacer in there. I'll weld that on later on. Got 1/4 inch off this side. Everything is now right. I've just run over things with the tape measure, with the spirit level. Everything seems to be good. The rear wheel is about halfway in its slot, and I've got a 52 inch wheelbase, so I'm really pleased with that. Okay, it's really clocking on here. What else can we... Let's have a look at footrests. You know something? Now everything's bolted in here tight and straight. I just put this on here. It's actually sitting on the sprocket. If I get that absolutely dead straight, I don't need to mount the chain on the inside of this. I can just get a sprocket. Well, that was a bit of balls. Right, so footrests. Hang on. So where do we want our footrests? Well, we want them about level, or we want our feet about level with the wheel spindles, which is 13 inches, which is a minute mark just there. So the footrest wants to be on, actually look at that, it's going to be right on there. So the footrest wants to be about like that. So we're going to have a plate come back because, of course, not much point having a footrest if you can't rest your foot on it. Now this side we're not too bad, we're not sticking out really all that much. So I want them, as I say, 13 inches just behind and below the swinging arm. So just behind the swinging arm is about here. Right, so they're going to need to, we're going to have a decent bit of standing on there. Stick my foot out a little bit. They're actually going to need to be about out to the end of this bolt, so they're going to need to be there like that. Okay, which means they're going to have to come out from this tube. They can't just be flat on the tube. We'll make them come out and we'll gusset them behind. Now on this side we're going to need to have this as well. So I was hoping to use this very nice one of these, but of course it's for the other side. Now I can make up a new one of these. See, if I turn that over, I can't just turn this over because then that'll point out that way, which is somewhat annoying. It's a bugger, beautifully made. It's even got a little needle bearing in there. But we're going to want it to be about there. Right, so if we're going to have that there like that, be over the top. But really, you see, I want this right in there, so I've got a straight push this to go into that. I'm going to have to make one of these because I'm going to have to see, even there, that's a terrible angle for that. Like, I don't really want this sticking out here somewhere. Have it there, have that just inside of there. I'll have to come round and go down, so it's going to be something like that. So actually the plate doesn't need to be that big because we're not going to have this out there. We really need to pivot it inside of there. That's going to take some thinking about. Let's go and have a look at the other side. Right, now this side we have even more of a problem. As I mentioned, bringing these tubes closer in has given us a slight problem. So there's our mark just above this bolt again. But here you see that chain case only sticks out a couple of inches. We've got to have our, because our foot's going to be here, we're going to have to be able to clear this thing. It's, as I say, if that was higher or lower, it wouldn't be quite such a problem. But let me show you with this. See? So we've got to be out here. I don't want to come too far back. We're starting to get a strange centre of balance. That wants to be a C. That mark wants to be the level of that. So because that almost wants to be right out here. Inch and a half out from there. So how are we going to do this? Now then, we could, see, don't forget this is all nicely fastened up to here as well, so it's not as if we're putting strain up on this tube, it's going into there, so it's all going to be strong enough. I'm wondering whether I should put another mounting like that here and actually bolt the plate on rather than weld it on. This side, the only thing we're going to have on this side is we're going to put the prop stand here so that we're not too busy, because over the other side we're going to have the chain tensioner. Well, I'll tell you what, this is not going to be a quick job, any of it. So, don't know how long this video is, but that's going to have to be it, because I've got to knock off now. Alright, so until next week, as you will have noticed, I put this video up on Saturday night because I wasn't going to be here on Sunday. So until next week, everybody, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.